All right, guys, we're live. Y'all ready?
Let's
Let's
go.
do it.
All right, let me play the music and we'll get right to coach on the backside. I got to find the music though. Here we go. All right, guys, we have some big news in the football world today. Gary and Cam, Myers Park hired a new football coach, the fifth coach they've had in 5 seasons, and we're going to bring him on right now as Coach Chris James, the Myers Park Mustangs. How you doing, Coach?
I'm good, man. Thank you guys for having me on tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. How old are you? Where you come from? What your vision is?
So I'm 33, originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I am a Gardner Webb University grad, played football there. Graduated from Gardner Webb, took a small stint back home for about a couple months, moved to Charlotte, and I started my career at Independence High School. So I've been here since 2015. So been in the area a while. Have had the opportunity to be under some really good coaches over my years here. Just as far as the vision, man, honestly, just really excited right now. We have a amazing group of kids at Myers Park, an amazing group of coaches. Very fortunate and thankful for my administration for giving me this opportunity. I'm very much focused on the main thing, and the main thing right now is making sure our kids are ready come August 18th, which is our first game. So just kind of excited to get things going with the guys starting tomorrow. We'll be in the weight room and kind of just really keeping our head down and just getting to work.
Heck of a first job, to get Myers Park as your first coaching gig.
Yeah. Big time gig in my opinion. But I think it speaks to a lot of the coaches that I've had the opportunity to be under. So I was my very first gig was with Justin Harden at Independence High School back in 15. From there, I went to Porter Ridge, was under Michael Hurts. Both guys taught me so much. Coach Hurts, especially on the defensive side where I kind of specialized, really, really taught me a lot. Had a lot of great group of kids there. I was there when you had the Grayson McCalls, the Will McDonalds, the Jalen Coleman's there. And then after that, I went back with Harden to Charlotte Latin, coached with some great guys, Anthony Boone, Drew Dayton. So I've just been fortunate to be around some great football minds, a lot of mentors in the college game that coach me, that have given me a ton of knowledge. I'm kind of like a sponge, and it's a big opportunity, but it's an opportunity, and I plan to do the best I can, work my butt off for the kids, for the community, and we'll see what happens.
Coach James, first and foremost, congratulations and welcome to this wonderful opportunity. How will you embrace the unique challenge, opportunity, and responsibility given the program's recent history to create that long sought after consistency and stability, not just on the field. We know that can happen, but in terms of obviously five head coaches and creating and putting your stamp on that culture with your own unique consistency and stability to lead this program or continue it on the successful run that it has had and to reach that new pinnacle which the program has sought for so long. Given that unique dynamic, how will you put your stamp on the program with consistency and stability?
Well, it's funny in this situation. I think it's unique with me being a part of the staff the last 2 years. The kids know me already. They know my voice. I'm also an administrator on campus. So that's also pretty unique. The kids see me every single day, walking around campus, coming in classrooms. But they've heard my voice on the football field. I was defensive coordinator the last 2 years, both under Coach McManus and then under Coach Fuller prior to. So in terms of the consistency, the consistency piece, we've got the same group now that have been there over the last 2 years. Maybe add a few pieces here or there to complete the staff, but I mean, for the most part, our kids know our staff. As far as like my input or my face in terms of on the program, I think it's simple. It's a saying that I have. I got it from Coach Rivera, the APE saying in a sense: attitude, preparation, execution. We talked a little bit about it today in our meeting. The big thing is when you hear the name Myers Park, that's something that a lot of people across the state of North Carolina know a lot about. But I think we got to get kind of back to our roots. And part of that is just being able to work hard. There's an expectation that I have of us being able to day in and day out.
I think we lost Coach there for a second.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we lost
There he is. He's frozen. He's back.
Yeah. Coach, log out and come back in for us, Coach. We lost you there for a second. Log out and come back in. If you can hear me. Live TV. It happens sometimes.
Gotta love it.
Gary, what do you think about this young man as we try to get him back going?
Well, the first thing that struck me is he's been on staff a couple of years, and you have to worry about the rising senior class having 4 different head coaches, with him being the 5th. But they've had a different coach with a different philosophy, with a different plan every year. So even though they're transitioning to a new head coach, at least there's some familiarity with him. And he's in the building, and he doesn't have to learn the lay of the land, so to speak. He knows what kind of kids he has. He said most of the staff is returning, which I kind of thought was going to happen. So that gives him a head start.
Yeah.
The question I had for him, and hopefully he'll get back on, is what is it that the administration and the boosters want? Because they're the ones that never seem to be satisfied.
Yeah.
And part of the transition of so many coaches has been because of what the boosters and the administration wanted. And, they look like they've always been looking for a quick fix,
They had a guy with Harmon, I thought, that wanted to be there, that it led them to a regional championship game. I was a little surprised that they didn't allow Harmon to come in. But I think, this guy having been in the building is going to be good for them. The familiarity, like you talked about, should be good for them to get in. What do you think, Alex?
Agree, just all the way around, and we're all hitting.
Wait, we got Coach back. All right, Gary, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, Coach. I was discussing with the panel. What is it that the administration and the boosters want? Because as we've watched this program over the last 5 years, it looks like they've been looking for a quick fix to get to the state championship. They've taken some shortcuts, and when things don't go their way, then there's a change at the end of the season, and you're the 5th new coach in the last 5 years. So what is it that they're looking for? And are they going to give you time to achieve your goals?
Well, one thing I'll say, when you look at the coaching changes over the last few years, I think you have to also look at the fact that a lot of these coaches have been promoted. From Coach Chadwick getting a promotion, going to Maryland, Coach Fuller getting a promotion, going out to coach in Texas. So, in terms of that, I hear it, I see it. I think that's a situation where if people really just look at the full picture, I think there's a little bit more to it than the naked eye. But in terms of what the community wants and what our administration wants, truthfully, they want a good product. And when I say a good product, it doesn't just deal with strictly football, right? We want kids that are do what they're supposed to do on campus, do what they're supposed to do in the community. Kids that just want to genuinely work hard. In my opinion, being around a game of football as long as I have and being around some really good minds, when you get those pieces and those nucleuses together, that's when you start the win column starts to increase. A perfect example of that, a good friend of mine, DJ McFadden at Independence. I think when DJ went into Indy, I think his big goal was to just put his head down and work. And you saw this first year where they were in close games, lose by a play or a possession here or there. And then you flip it to this year, they still have the same mentality of putting their head down, working, staff doing the same thing. And what did it turn into? It turned into a successful season. I mean, in my opinion, he put Independence back on the map. He's done a really good job there. So I think the blueprint is very much similar. We can't stop the outside noise, and that's not our job, and that's not our goal. Our goal is to focus on the main thing, and the main thing is getting better day to day, doing what we're supposed to do on campus, doing what we're supposed to do in the classroom, getting after it in practice, getting after it in the weight room, and I think you will see some results based off of that.
Okay.
Coach, first off, I'll echo the sentiments of the rest of the, panel here. Just congrats first off. But, what is one thing that you really think, I mean, I know you just recently got the job, but what is one thing in your mind that you think will, elevate this program and, push them in the right direction to play championship caliber football again?
I think it's seeing that the work ultimately will result in that. I'm not saying that in the past that Myers Park, the program hasn't put in the work. But I think you keep hearing the word consistency, right? The consistent piece, seeing the same faces, having the same kids that are in the Myers Park community come through the community. There is something to be said about just being able to put the work in and then seeing the results based off of that. It's a process. I know that. The kids know that. I think the community and my administration understands and knows that this is a process. This is not an overnight deal. We got a lot of young guys. We got some guys that played some meaningful minutes this past year that might not necessarily have been expected to. I think that will pay dividends. And then we're gonna have some young guys that are gonna have to play, this year. So I think that, in my opinion, again, I keep echoing it, and that's my sentiment to my program right now, is when you put your head down, the results will end up speaking for itself. It's kind of funny to think about it like this, Myers Park being the school that it is, but in my opinion, I think right now we're a sleeping giant in terms of, nobody's talking about us, that's perfectly fine. That's really not our responsibility anyway. We're not supposed to worry about the noise that comes from around the program right now. Our job is to make sure we're doing what we have to do and we're prepared when the opportunity presents itself. And I think with the group of kids that we have, the group of coaches that we have that work their butts off, I think we'll do
that. Coach James, to what degree do you see this? You talk about an opportunity presenting itself. The timing of this is very unique in that this opportunity presents itself to you in the immediate aftermath of whatever people might want to say, in the immediate aftermath of how the Steve Wilkes situation played out with the Carolina Panthers. You look at something like that, and someone with a defensive background like yourself getting this opportunity right here, and you look at the success of other defensive coordinators at the high school level, whether we're talking the likes of Anthony Hackett and Chachi Sullivan in the greater Charlotte area, and obviously if you look across the state, someone like a Nick Drew at Cardinal Gibbons, opportunities that come along. Given just the timing of all of this, how significant is it, and do you think that you having this opportunity is being looked at as a standard? Okay, we want to see this guy get it done to create opportunities for other excellent defensive-minded coaches going forward like this.
Or, I think the situation with Steve Wilkes is a little different than this situation. But I do think when thinking about my administration, my athletic director, Brian Poore, my principal, Bob Folk, in speaking with them, we're not echoing championships right now, right? We had a 3-7 season, which a lot of people are going to say is down. At this point right now, we're just focused on getting back to the basics. The consistency piece with coaching is the same with the consistency piece with our guys showing up every day willing to work, our guys doing what they got to do in film study, our guys picking up and understanding the offensive and defense, and then being able to execute that. So again, I think with that lead thought in mind with the players and getting them to understand that, I don't necessarily feel any pressure, if you will, with this opportunity. I do know it's a lot of work, and I'm very much built to do the work. I'm very, very fortunate to have some guys around me right now that are also ready to do the work as well. And, truthfully, to be honest with you, I saw a look in some of my players' eyes today after speaking with them and being introduced to them that they too are ready to work. I mean, my phone's been kind of blowing up, most of the day today, but the messages that I'm kind of most focused on are from some of my players. And there's a sense of excitement. There's a sense of like, Coach, what are we doing tomorrow in the weight room? I'm ready to get back to work. So I'm excited for the opportunity. There's no pressure, in my opinion, in the opportunity. It is an opportunity, though. So, it will be up to me and up to, the rest of my staff to make sure that we kind of take advantage of the opportunity as well as the kids.
Coach James, my God. First of all, I want to tell you congratulations.
Appreciate
Second
it.
of all, my question is, does this mean that my favorite high school director of basketball operations is no longer in business?
Hey, man, absolutely not. I'll be there ready to go tomorrow night.
All right, that's all I need.
What are we talking about here, man? I don't know what's going on.
This is you didn't know this is the director of basketball operations for Myers Park basketball right here. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm coaching. I am just that. I'm the director of basketball ops, so I kind of take care of all the logistics for the basketball day-to-day operations. Nah, I'm joking with you guys. Nah, me being an administrator.
Hold on. I got Bishop Boswell here. Bishop, does this guy have something to do with y'all's team? I can't hear you, Bishop. Come off from mute. Is this guy have something to do with your team over here? This guy.
I mean, he's been in a couple tournaments and he helps me when my ankles hurt, and he puts me through some workouts. So I guess
well-rounded tournaments. See what you get on Talking Preps. You get the new Myers Park football coach. You get the Myers Park star basketball player calling you out. You just never know what you're doing. But Coach, Bishop, I'm gonna bring you back, man. Hang out in the back for a second.
Yes,
but Coach, what schematically, what are you guys going to try to get done in your reign in Myers Park?
So defensively, we'll get back to kind of the bread and butter, what I'm used to defensively in terms of a 4-3. Will be real multiple. I'm really interested to see a lot of our guys kind of in this defense. Something very similar to what you might have seen before the last couple of years with us. Offensively, we got some weapons. We got a lot of like scat back type guys. So the big thing is we're looking at getting guys the ball in space. Got some guys that can swing the ball around. I'm really interested in what that quarterback competition looks like. We got Randall Thompson coming back off of ACL injury. He was our starter going into the season last year. So got to see what he is first and foremost. Got a young guy, Haynes Rochester, and Brock Jenkins, who was our JV. Both were our JV quarterbacks last year. Haynes is a freshman. So very interested to see how that plays out. With actually Brock also had a knee injury as well. So both guys probably going to spring probably will not be as active as Haynes will be. So we'll see what kind of the outcome is at the quarterback position, but definitely we'll have some playmakers offensively. I'm not going to overcomplicate this thing. I've seen too many guys that I've been under tell me that. We're going to get our best guys the ball and watch what they do with it. Simple as that. We're going to be very good up front on both sides of the ball. We're going to fly around in the secondary. We're going to have some very physical guys at linebacker for sure. So you'll be excited to see the product. I thought we had a really good product on the field last year. I thought it was really young. So kind of an extension of what you saw this year. Some guys that probably have grown up a little bit and will grow up over the course of spring and the summer. So definitely something you guys should look forward to next fall.
Coach, I got one little recruiting question for you. That guy right there below you think you can get him back off the basketball court and on the football field?
Oh, we're going to talk tomorrow.
I heard he's a pretty good quarterback or a pretty good receiver. I'm just saying.
I've seen for sure. I had a game.
I heard he was a D1 football player.
I mean, that's what I heard too.
I don't know. All right, Coach. Thanks for coming on, man. Best of luck.
Thanks for having me.
All right. That's Myers Park's new football coach.
I gotta wait till he goes away. Now that he's gone, Bishop, do not go to that meeting tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
We got two Chris James in town. The Charlotte Christian football coach is also named Chris James. All right, so we got Bishop Boswell of Mars Park. I'm like totally off my game because I had something totally different loaded up to show. But Bishop, tell us about the season. I know you transferred from South Mecklenburg. Obviously, that's been a good move for you having a big season. Tell us about your year so far.
Yes, sir. It's been a great year so far. We started off kind of slow, obviously, with like a loss against Chambers. But I think we've just gotten better and better each game. And I think kind of going to some tournaments like out of state over the Christmas break really helped us just kind of develop as a team. So I just think we get better each game. And, I'm excited for what the rest of the season holds.
Yeah, a lot of people point back to that Chambers game and kind of said, well, maybe Mars Park's overrated. Did you guys have to kind of figure it out early in the season and kind of get rolling? Because at Christmas, you guys certainly played great.
Yeah, I think so. Second game. First home game, so first game against some real competition. And I think, just little things that we saw on film, like a lot of errors, a lot of turnovers, and just things like that. But obviously people are gonna think what they want, but I think if we see him again, it'll be a different outcome.
I love it, Bishop. So it's been a little bit different from you. You went from last year at South Meck, where you pretty much for you to keep your team in games, you had to score the basketball at a super high rate. This year at Myers Park, your scoring isn't necessarily as impactful, but I think you've been better defensively. Can you talk about the adjustment it's been for you going from being, the guy that had to get 20 a night to where you don't necessarily have to get 20 a night, but you're counted on the defensive end?
Yeah, I think last year what they kind of did at South Meck was obviously I had to score the ball a lot, so they kind of put me off ball to kind of save some of my energy. But I think this year, now that, I have people that can, help the scoring load around me, it's just kind of put me in that, center point to just, help the defense as much as I possibly can and, just use my body and everything I can to stop other people from scoring. And then, obviously, it's, been a pretty hard transition at first, just over the summer, working at it, learning how to play with the different guys and having a different role. But I think it's just gotten a little bit better each game, and I think it's picking up definitely here this past game that we had the other night.
Bishop, Mars Park has never won a football or basketball state championship game. Biggest school in the state, probably the biggest fan base in the state. How big a deal would it be for you guys to get to NC State to a championship game? And I'm sure it'd be sold out with all Mars Park fans. But how big a deal would that be for you guys to finally get over the hump?
Yeah, I think it'd be a huge deal just after all the work we put in this year. It'd mean a lot to us. And then obviously I think we have the best student section in the state. So, obviously we want to do it for them.
I might argue the best student section, but we'll leave that alone.
Family bias is crazy on this show sometimes, Bishop.
It is, but I didn't even talk about that game. All right, so Bishop, now you're going to take on Randall, and I asked Bryce Cash last week to beat Randall. Bryce wouldn't do it, so I need you to do it.
All right, I got you.
You got to beat him. So I got to play his little theme music because I'm obligated to.
Make sure you listen to the words of this, Bishop.
So when we come back, Chelsea's going to ask a question. You'll answer first, and Sammy asks the second question, and Randall will go first. It's a multiple choice. I just need you to win. Whatever you do, just win.
All right.
So here's his little music.
I'm Randall Clark. I am not Sam Griner. You will not beat me on the game show.
Chelsea. Got to come off mute, Chelsea.
Can y'all hear me now?
Now I can.
There we go. In NBA history, which primary point guard has scored the most career points? A. Allen Iverson, B. Chris Paul, C. Steph Curry, or D. John Stockton?
Bishop.
I have to answer first?
Yeah, you go first. You're the guest. Oh, yeah. He's in trouble already.
I'm going to say Steph Curry.
Steph Curry. What you got, Randall?
Allen Iverson.
Chelsea, you didn't even tell me I put up the wrong question.
Oh, I didn't even know.
You just read it. It's okay. Allen Iverson's the right answer. Randall's up 1-0.
Okay, I'll come fix it in a minute. Go.
Somehow he's getting help by here in the background.
Oh yeah, the 3-year-old is definitely helping.
Yeah,
that's 1-0. 1-0. Good guys, right?
1-0 bad guys. All right. Sammy.
Okay, this 22-year-old singer from New York was a surprise Grammy winner for Best New Artist. Name the winner: A. Samara Joy, B. Lizzo, C. Money Long, D. Anita.
Randall.
C. Money Long.
Money Long. What you got, Bishop?
I don't know any of these people except for Lizzo, so I'm gonna go with
Lizzo did win the Grammy last night, but what's the best new artist? It's Samara Joy, a jazz singer from New York. She had one of the best acceptance speeches all night long. All right, so we are still tied at. I'm not tied. Randall's up 1-0. I gotta find some current events questions. These young people let me down. These current event questions. I thought you guys would get that.
Yeah, that was that. I couldn't.
Chelsea.
Drew Pember leads the Big South in scoring and rebounding. Which SEC school did he transfer to UNC Asheville from? A. Alabama, B. Tennessee, C. Georgia, or D. LSU?
All right, Bishop. Let's get on the roll here.
I'm gonna say Tennessee.
Tennessee. Randall, what you got?
He came from LSU, didn't he?
I don't know.
LSU D. I mean,
you are incorrect. We are tied at 1. Bishop is correct.
Yeah,
Bishop. And you know how I learned that, Randall? You should have learned how I knew that because I was watching the game the other night.
Dang, yeah.
And you knew I was watching the game the other day.
I did know you were watching the game the other night.
All right. Sammy.
What futuristic movie was #1 in America last week? A. Knock at the Cabin, B. A Man Called Otto, C. Avatar: The Way of the Water, D. 80 for Brady.
Avatar: The Way of the Water.
Randall.
C. Avatar: The Way of the Water.
Way of the Water. What you got, Bishop?
I have C as well.
The answer is A. Knock at the Cabin. We are tied going into the last question. I fooled Randall. I thought I was going to fool Randall. I knew I was going to fool Randall. I didn't think I was going to fool you.
I've never heard of the other movie.
I've never heard of any of the other movies either.
This is
exactly how he works, though. He tried to
be 80 for Brady as much as they advertise that thing.
No, I've never heard of that.
All right, last question, Chelsea.
3-point guards are among the NBA's top 5 in three-pointers made per game. Steph Curry and Damian Lillard are the first two. Name the third.
Come on, Bishop.
A. Kyrie Irving, B. LaMelo Ball, C. Tyler Hero, or D. Tyrese Halliburton.
Come on, Bishop.
Who's answering first? Me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with
Come on, point guard. B.
A. Kyrie.
A. Kyrie. What you got, Randall?
D. Tyrese Halliburton.
The answer is B. LaMelo Ball.
What?
We have a tie. All that means is, Bishop, you got to come back so we can have a tiebreaker.
All right.
Maybe before the state championship?
All right. Yes, sir.
You going to be there?
Yes, sir.
You know the Chambers of North Meck people watch the show.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. He said, let me put you on the one shot there. Are you going to be there, Bishop?
Yes, sir. I'm going to be there.
There it is. He said I. He didn't say we, Randall. He said I. He didn't say we.
Hey, listen. We know what it is.
All right, Bishop, man. Good luck to you guys. All right, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, take care. Good kid right there, Bishop Boswell. All right, so I'm way out of my my show plans. I don't even know where we are.
See, you got me messed up today.
I'm all messed up.
Yeah, I know. You got me messed up now.
We went long on the football coach. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna let Sammy introduce her videos, so we can let Sammy go and I'll keep her all night. Sammy, tell the people who you had this week and how it went.
So this week I had Jordan Latter. She's a senior at Providence Day. She's a combo guard, and she's been playing on varsity basketball for 4 years, and she was just amazing and so sweet.
All right, let's drop it.
Hi, today I welcome Jordan Latter on 5 Minutes with Sammy. How are you doing today, Jordan?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So Providence Day has a 19-5 record. How does your team work together to keep that kind of record?
We just work together by understanding each other's game and making sure that we share the ball and put players in scorable positions. We also play pretty good team defense overall.
Jordan, you hit 1,000 points a few weeks ago. That must have been a great accomplishment. How did it feel?
It honestly felt amazing. It was very surreal to reach the same accomplishment as my former senior teammates, Andy and Morgan. I feel very honored to be a part of the legacy.
Do you think the team is on track to winning another state championship this year?
100% yes.
How come?
Just as a team, we have grown so much as a team and faced some challenges overall. The underclassmen have really stepped up and matured overall, and we just have really good chemistry, and we have the talent to win.
Okay, let's make it a little more interesting. What is the last song you listened to before going out on the court to hype yourself up a little bit?
Okay, so the last song I listened to was Superhero by Metro Boomin, Chris Brown, and Future.
That is a good song. Who are your normally favorite artists to listen to?
This might be an unpopular opinion, but I usually listen to SZA. That's my favorite artist.
I love SZA. Have you listened to her new album yet?
Yes, I have. My favorite song is by far Kill Bill.
That is a good song. Who doesn't love Kill Bill?
Exactly.
Anyways, thank you so much for coming on to 5 Minutes with Sammy, Jordan. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I hope we can collaborate again another time.
Thank you.
Man, I like that, Sammy. That was all right. I love SZA too.
SZA, I love her.
I love SZA too. All right, Sammy, look, thanks for coming on. Tell people how they can get in touch with you so they can be on 5 Minutes with Sammy and get all this coverage like Jordan just got.
You can just DM me on Instagram or text me on Twitter, and I will answer you. I'm very active on both those.
Yes, she is. Yeah, every morning I wake up, I get a Sammy story. Every morning I wake up. All right, Sammy, take care of yourself.
Thank you.
All right, so we had some big surprises last week. Chambers beating North Meck was probably the biggest surprise. I want to go around the room and kind of get you guys' thoughts. But Cam was at that game, and if I can find the highlights, he talked to some of the Chambers people afterwards.
So I struggled a little bit in the first, but just going back to it, being in the lab, just staying hungry, that's really all I did.
And so what was the game plan change at all? I mean, when you go up against your rival, it's going to be a high intensity game, physical. But, was there any game plan shift knowing they beat you the first time in overtime?
It was just having more grit, just coming out here and playing and being more aggressive. That's really all we had to do, was just assert dominance, and we just kept doing that.
All right, Marcus, so you drew the assignment of Isaiah Evans, and obviously, that's a big-time assignment, but you stayed right on his hip. They called a little chippy fouls here and there, but you stayed in the game, made sure that every shot that he took was contested.
He's a shot maker, man. He's definitely ball star. So, that was the biggest thing we emphasized in practice, just locking in on him, making sure, he's crowded every time he get the ball, I'm pressuring him. So, that was the game plan. I think we executed well.
It means a lot. I think my kids worked extremely hard to get to this point. I thought we lost at the buzzer last game at our place, and I thought our kids laid it on the line and gave themselves a shot to win and didn't win. So it means a lot for our kids to go back in the lab and work extremely hard and come back out and get a nice win tonight.
So what was the defensive switch? You put Marcus on Isaiah. He really was locking him up, especially in the first half.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out my team a little bit. So I got some new pieces, and Marcus has shown himself that he can guard it. He'll be that defensive guy for us, and he did it the night before against Hopewell, and then he showed up again tonight. So he's been our guy in regards to defensively, just kind of picking the energy up on the defensive end.
And so with just a few games left in the regular season, what does this win do for confidence moving forward?
I think it's big for our guys. I think, just letting them know that they deserve to be at the top. They worked hard for it. They played some tough competition. So it means a lot to show that they're supposed to be in the rankings just like everybody else.
They're supposed to be in the rankings just like everybody else. Richard, what did you see in this game, and were you surprised by the outcome?
I would have to say yes. They lost at home to North Meck, and going on the road to North Meck, and North Meck is so tough at home. It's like playing Duke at Cameron Indoor Stadium. So, I was going with the home team, but, you think about it, was a signature win for, Chambers. But if you look at their schedule, it was their second signature win, going on the road, beating Myers Park, which is probably one of the best teams in the 4A. And now North Meck at the time was the second best 4A team in the state. So just like, Coach Frazier said, that they're playing with a lot of confidence. And I think right now they have a big chip on their shoulder and they can feel like they can beat anybody. And you have to take them into consideration as far as, for the state 4A championship at the public school level.
Gary, hearing that, what do you think?
It probably shouldn't have been a surprise to us because if you put both rosters up, North Meck has the number one player, but I think Chambers probably has the next 4 best players before you get to another North Meck player. Okay. So I think we get caught up in the 5-star kid from North Meck and forget that Chambers has a lot of good players. And I think they beat them with a solid team effort because the scoring was balanced for Chambers. And I think North Meck may rely too much on their superstar to carry them. And if he's having a bad night, that makes it easy for a team that's balanced like Chambers. So I was surprised. But then again, when you look at the rosters, Chambers' roster is just as good as anybody else's in town.
Cam, go ahead.
Well, the one thing about it is when you look at Chambers, you look at, like, for example, from last year, they lost Jalen Curry and also Daniel Sanford. And like I think Coach Frazier said, he's starting to figure out his team because he did have 2 new players, come to the school in the Brown brothers, and they made a huge difference. So, looking at the rosters, I still think North Meck had the advantage. You do have Mario Hansen, which is a top player, and you have Nick Doran. But, outside of that, you had a lot of unknowns on the team for Chambers, in my opinion. But like I said, I was a little bit surprised, but I shouldn't have been. The thing about it is Chambers has played with grit and determination. They've just been snake bit in a couple of close games. But if you look at their roster, look at their schedule, all the teams they've lost to are all top-ranked teams.
Cam, Chambers has played one of the toughest schedules in the area. North Meck has not played as tough a schedule. Did that have anything to do with this game, or was it just its own thing?
I think it has a lot to do with it. When you're constantly playing in the the non-conference, tough opponents like Cannon, for example. You're being battle tested. They played Myers Park. They beat Myers Park. So I think, challenging yourself in the non-conference is crucial. And I think the result last weekend really emphasized that.
Alex, you get the last word.
All right, 3 points I want to make here. First off, to follow up on what the esteemed Rick Lewis said about the Carolina Duke relationship there. This was better than Carolina Duke. I'm just going to come out and say it. This was better than Carolina Duke, and just as a testament to the wonderful level of play that we're watching this season. All right, secondly, along the lines of what the venerable Gary Richmond said, and I'm going to give all of us UNC graduates a throwback here. We're going to go back 32 years here. Coach Richmond talked about how you might have the best player on North Meck, but then you look at the next 4 or so players you would take would be from Chambers if you just really want to do it on paper. Mm-hmm. This is a throwback to the 1990-91 season. The state runner-up that year was East Wake High School, which had as its interior presence a future UNC football standout who was a sophomore at the time named Greg Ellis.
Oh, I do remember that.
He went on to do a few decent things for Gary's previous favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, so East Wake and Greg Ellis had to get by a conference rival, Garner High School, which included a student athlete named Donald Williams. Now he was pretty decent, by the way, too. Averaged 36 points a game as a senior, and he went on to do some other things for UNC basketball. He was only a Final Four MVP.
Yeah, so he won a chip. Chris Webber
that was a situation where Garner probably had the best player.
Did you see Cam look away from the camera when I said won a chip? The Chris Webber game, y'all saw Cam look away from the camera. He couldn't take
Hey, let's let Weber off the hook. He traveled anyway. We all know that.
Yeah.
But my point being, so Garner had the best player in that situation. But you look back at that East Wake team and the depth that they had. You're talking about a team that had Jawan Tuck, who played at Seton Hall. He was the point guard on that team. And you had Sean Allen, who went on to play at Wake Forest. He was on that team. So East Wake was a deeper team, kind of like Chambers was. East Wake went on to the state championship game and fell short to the mighty West Charlotte Lions. So bring that all full circle. We see a repeat of what happened 32 years ago. And I'm going to go on record right now and say that a Charlotte Mecklenburg school will win the 4A boys state championship, just like West Charlotte did in 91.
Hey, listen. We got all these Carolina people on here, and that's all fine and dandy. But listen, we are not going to sit here and compare Duke Carolina to a regular season Chambers versus North Met game. Carolina Duke is the greatest rivalry in all of sports. Let's not do that. I mean, I understand you guys are upset over what happened Saturday night, and I get it. But let's not try to put it down there with
While you're talking on a rant, are there any girl surprises out there that caught shy?
I don't think there was any girl surprises this week, but I think the biggest surprise this season has been the Independence Patriots this season. I think Coach G has done a phenomenal job with her team. Coming off Kaylee Carson's ATL in preseason, I didn't have high expectations for this team. I expected them to be kind of middle of the road, win a few games here and there. But, Ken Kitchens, who we had on the show a couple weeks ago, has done a phenomenal job stepping up. Coach G has done a great job, with her group. And they control their own destiny here and on the back half of the season and winning the conference. And, I just wanted to take the time to give them congratulations and salute them.
Let's also congratulate North Mecklenburg and Chambers, not for going down a level, as was just said, but playing up and above what Duke and Carolina showed us. They took it up another level.
I think I get the point you're trying to make. Also hear what Randall saying. Gary, speaking of girls basketball, North Meck lost a star player transferred to Independence last year, still winning. Doing very well. Myers Park lost their best player to knee injury this year, still doing very well. Are those two schools surprise you? South Meck lost their coach, still doing well. Any of those surprising you, or were you expecting that?
No, especially Myers Park. As long as Barbara Nelson is coaching at Myers Park, the young Barbara Nelson, I'm not gonna get Barbara mad at me, but they're always gonna.
I didn't call her grandma coach. Her player called her grandma coach.
See, you brought it up again. But anyway,
I've got on me during the week, so we're good.
I'm not surprised. South Meck, they made the right selection when they replaced Christie, when Christie stepped down. I'm not surprised. And I'm not surprised at North Meck because year in and year out, there is no team in Charlotte that plays harder than Jennifer Baker's kids do. They might not always be the most talented team, but they play harder consistently more than any other program in Charlotte.
That is very, very, very high praise. All right, so we're going to talk about this Carolina Duke game real briefly. But before I get into it, Chelsea, you're going to Chapel Hill. How did you feel seeing the Tar Heels go down?
Well, at first I was already really disappointed in that Pitt game they played. I'll say this from a Carolina standpoint. I thought the shooting was absolutely awful from the 3-point, from the free throw. I mean, if you just look at the percentages, they were terrible.
You only shot like 38% yourself.
Yeah. And that last play of the Pitt game, I think maybe there could have been a foul, but
yeah.
As Rick will say, if it wasn't called, then it wasn't there, I guess. But just with that Duke game, I had high hopes, but
Are you going to be camping out next year for tickets to the Duke Carolina game? You going to sleep on the concrete?
I'm going to have to. I got to get them one way or another.
Got to go. It's definitely. I've been to many of those games at both places. They're definitely experiences. I think they're definitely bucket list items. So you got to go. Unfortunately, as a student, you got to. At least when we were there, you had to sleep. Gary, remember that? You had to sleep out forever on the.
Well, they slept out. I had a connection, so I never slept outside.
We should take turns. Like,
I
my roommate was Savannah.
I knew somebody, so I never slept outside.
And I started working for the paper. I had tickets, but when I was student, me and my roommate Zeb, we would like plan it out. Like, you stay a little bit, I stay a little bit. But anyway, Randall was working, got a call from a buddy. He said, "Do you want to go to the game?" And Randall says yes. And they go into Cameron Indoor Stadium and they start going down. And just look and see where Randall ended up. Randall, how loud did you scream when that boy made that shot?
The place went nuts. I was actually calm the whole night. Like, it's funny when I normally go in the camera, and I'm normally a quiet one. I just enjoy watching the game and the atmosphere, and like the fans started jumping all around and jumping up and down at one point, and literally like the whole building was shaking. It was unbelievable. But it was a lot of fun. I didn't know how I was going to get to see this game, but I was excited to see it. And when you go in there and, you can tell me that Duke was favored by 3, but to me, Duke was an underdog because I felt like if Carolina could get the ball inside to the big fella, I just didn't know how we were going to guard that. And surprisingly,
for the last 12 minutes of the game.
Derek Lively out of nowhere, the freshman showed up, and it was good to kind of see him and Tyrese Proctor kind of grow up, and Jeremy Roach show some of that veteran leadership Saturday night.
Roach was huge. I'm a little afraid to put Gary on the screen, but Gary asked to talk about this game. I think he's going to talk about the fact that Carolina's best player didn't take a shot the last 12 minutes.
Of course he is.
But I'm going to put him on his little one shot and give Gary his minute.
I want RC and Cam on here.
Oh, wait. There you go.
RC and Cam on here.
Let me put you up a different way. There you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, put him on here. Go ahead. First of all, congratulations to Duke. What Duke was able to do Saturday night is not get in the way of Carolina's poor coaching. Okay? They didn't get in the way. They said, Shire said, let them do what they do and we'll win because they are very poorly coached. Anybody on the panel, give me the definition of insanity.
Doing the
same thing over and over and over again.
Expect a different result.
Right. That's it. Thank you, Cam. That's what Hubert Davis and his staff does. They do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And, I gave him a pass last year, and I didn't get caught up in them going to the Final Four. I did get caught up in them ending K's career. I really enjoyed that. So, we always have that to fall back on until they do something as significant.
Oh, rest on your laurels.
Speaking of Saturday, I hope you like that high school gym, RC. It's nice, isn't it? Nice and high school gym.
I love it. I love being in there. It's nice and comfy.
Okay, but getting back to the game. Friday was Michael Jordan Day on the ACC network. And they showed, some games in the past. And one thing I noticed is even with NBA talent, one of the games they had, Kenny Smith, Michael Jordan, Sam Perkins, Brad Daugherty, all of them were on the court. But he changed defenses, okay? He played man has always been our base defense, but he played some 2-3, some 2-3 matchup, some 1-3-1 zone, back to man. It was always changing defenses against opponents. And that's something that the current coaching staff never does. But what really bothers me about this particular staff is little coaching maneuvers that are elementary to high school coaches. They can't even execute. RJ had 4 fouls. There's a dead ball timeout. Duke has the ball coming out of that possession. Who would you attack if you're Duke? I'm going to attack the guy that's got 4 fouls. Okay. If you're a good coach, what do you do, Randall, with your best player having 4 fouls? What do you do?
We're gonna put him in pick and roll if I'm Duke.
No, I'm talking about what do you
Oh,
do if
oh,
you're
I would have subbed him. I would have subbed him out and found
Thank
another way
you.
to get
You
him back in the
sub,
game.
you go offense, defense.
Yeah.
You go
Or
offense,
zone,
defense. You
you
take
can,
him out.
or you can go
Their
zone.
best defender is on the bench, Treble, or Trimble. He's their best defender. You put him in the game, you get a stop, you call timeout, you put RJ back in the game. But they do the same things over and over, and they think they're going to get a different result. You know, you have a bench this year. You have players that can play. Only one substitution in the second half. At the 5-minute mark, I turned to a friend of mine and I said, they're dead tired. They're done. Unless he subs, they're done because they were dead tired and he never subbed the last 5 minutes of the game. So it's little coaching things that take place. I give credit to Duke for not getting in the way of letting Carolina lose the game.
All right. Well, I'm going to segue there, and we're talking about coaches. Coach Lewis has found some high school coaches that he thinks are doing really, really good jobs, as opposed to Gary's feelings about Chapel. Rick, tell us about the guys who caught your eye.
Well, before we get into this list, I also want to make sure I mention, a couple other coaches along the way. Darian Holloway at United Faith is in his first year. Although United Faith is a traditional 1A powerhouse, they're 27-2. And the other person that, I want to mention is, you look at Olympic this year at 21-1. He's done a remarkable job at Olympic. Now, that being said, I'm looking at the list here of Michael Laney at Covenant Day. The most impressive thing about looking at Covenant Day, and I looked at their roster from last year, they lost 95% of their scoring from last year. They had a lot of the kids that played valuable minutes transferred out. The only person that was returning was Chris Riven, who was a freshman. And I remember going to their open gym early in the year, and I think I told you, Langston, I said, I'll be surprised if they'll even win 3 games.
Yeah, I remember that.
That being said, they're 13-14, and they're playing in a very competitive conference. If you're a first-year head coach at Covenant Day, and you got to go up against the likes when you're playing, Charlotte Latin with Chris Berger, you're going up against Charlotte Country Day with David Carrier, you got Ron Johnson over at Providence Day, you got Jay Roth over at Cannon. That's not an easy chore for a first-year coach. So hats off to Michael Laney at Covenant Day. Another coach that's really impressed me this year is Ed Cook at Northside Christian. They're right at 18-13, and they're playing one of the toughest schedules in the state. And playing day in, day out against the toughest teams. They took their lumps early, but they sort of made a run of lately. They've won 8 of their last 11 games. So that's pretty impressive too. But the one that's really made the biggest impression on me this year is Gabe Blair. He came in last year at Gaston Christian. The team was 2-8. He came in sort of like midway through the year. In his first 4 games when he came in, he had to play Audrey Cale, Weddington, Word of God. They ended up, I think, last year with like a 10-12 record. This year, they're right at, I think, 21-8. They're 11-2 in the conference, and they've also swept Concord Academy, which is a defending 3A state champion. I think he's done a remarkable job as well.
All right. Well, there it is. Now we're going to find out who Richard picked for his players of the week, the Rick's Picks.
And welcome back. Randall Clark again here with the guru, Rick Lewis. Coach Rick, how are you this morning?
Doing well. Hope you are. I'm sure you're a little bit better since Duke pulled out the win yesterday.
I am. And let us get started with Rick's picks for this week. Go ahead, Coach Lewis.
Well, we're going to start off with a player that we had on our underrated list last week, and that's 6'11" Gabriel Mabor of Gaston Christian. 6'11" junior, had 22 points, 15 rebounds, 2 blocks, and a big road win against Northside Christian. Gaston Christian is now 21-8 for the season. They're 12-2 in the Metrolina 3A in the private school, and they're tied with Concord Academy. And the good thing about that is for them is they swept Concord Academy twice, and they've beaten the likes of Northside Christian, also Gaston Day. So they're a team to really be on the alert for. I think they're going to make major noise as far as in the NCISA 3A state championships. Next up is Amari Conley, 6'1" junior. He was out early in the year for Freedom. Friday night, he had 36 points and a 76-62 win over Ashe County. Freedom is now 17-4 for the season, and they're also 9-1 in conference play. So look out for Freedom to make a run in the Western 3A public school. Next up is Central Cabarrus. They're just a very unique team, one of the most selfless teams I've seen all year. They're 22-0. 51-1 over the last 2 seasons. They're averaging 87 points a game, 25 assists, 19.5 steals. But the most impressive stat is their assist to turnover ratio is 2.77 to 1. And that is unheard of at the high school or the college level. And especially in a type of system they play with a full court pressure defense, helter-skelter style of play, that they're able to have that type of assist to turnover ratio. Next up, I got to give kudos and hats off to head coach Brian Frazier of Chambers. They went into North Meck. It's like going to Duke and beating Duke at Cameron Indoor Stadium. So they upset number 4 North Meck. For the season, Chambers is 17-5. They're tied for first place at 9-1 in the Queen City Conference. And the most impressive thing about this for Brian Frazier is he's lost several players. Basically, he lost Jalen Curry again from last year, who transferred. He lost Daniel Sanford, who went to South Carolina. You lose 2 high major prospects, one graduating, one to transfer, and they're still in the thick of the hunt. So kudos to Brian Frazier for the big win at North Meck, and they control the tempo from start to finish. And my last guy is up 6'8", senior Pat Tiven of Charlotte Catholic. He had 32 points earlier in the week. He scored his 1,000th career point. He had 10 points, crucial free throws down the stretch as Charlotte Catholic went into Butler, beat them on the road by 3, but it was his key free throws that was the difference in that game. Right now, Charlotte Catholic is sitting at 19-4 for the season. They're 10-1 in the Southwestern Conference. And if they go to East Meck on Tuesday, and if they beat them on the road, they can win the regular season championship for the Southwestern 4A championship.
Always a tough league to win, and a lot of battles on Tuesday and Friday nights in that league. Thank you, Coach Rick, for another great week of Rick's Picks. And if you want to be one of the Guru's Picks, make sure to hit him up on social media at Coach_Rick57 on both Instagram and Twitter. We will see you next week.
All right, let's keep this going here. Let's bring everybody back in with our boys' games of the week. What a slate we have going here. Just looking at it, we just talked a little bit about Pat Tiven. We know East Meck always brings the heat. Let's just start this going here. Take your pick on any of these. Who wants to lead us off here? Take a pick of one.
Well, I think that.
Go ahead, Coach.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Coach.
I think the big game of the week is going to be Charlotte Catholic at East Meck. Charlotte Catholic's 19-4, 10-1 in the conference play. East Meck 17-5. They're 8-2. Catholic won the earlier meeting at home, 58-57, a 1-point win. If Catholic wins this game, they capture the Southwestern 4A regular season championship, and East Meck has to win the game to be co-champs for this particular conference. So that's to me, the big game of the week. It's a toss-up. I always go with the lean with the home team.
Let's follow up to this second game right here, Providence Day in Cannon. A spirited game, spirited opportunity. In terms of how competitive that this game could be with the talent flowing through, I'll let you take this one, Randall. We look back to the days when Providence Day had that tremendous backcourt of Devon Dodson and Trey Wirtz matching up against their 2018 classmates versus Cannon with Jarris Hamilton and Quan Murphy. Talk about how these two traditionally strong programs match up this time around in an always spirited CISAA battle.
Well, Providence Day lost this first game 60-59 at home. Is going to come down to inside outside. Obviously, Riley Allensbach is having a great season. If Providence Day can find a way to get him touches, get him the ball, play through the big fella, he could cause problems for Cannon. Cannon's going to try to outscore him. Cannon's going to try to make this game in the mid-70s, low 80s. If they can do that, they're going to win. Their goal is to speed people up. They want to play at a faster pace. Providence Day, the complete opposite. They're going to try to slow it down, make every possession count and matter. But they're going to have to play through Riley in order for that to happen. Should be a pretty entertaining game tomorrow night to see whose style of play gets impacted first.
All right, let's go on over to Friday night here with this CMS powerhouse matchup here. Let's go to our CMS legend, Mr. Gary Richmond, right here. Talk to us a little bit about Myers Park going on the road. We spoke to Bishop Boswell earlier this evening, and the Mustangs are certainly getting into more of a little bit of a groove now. This conference matchup right here at this juncture of the season for Myers Park on the road, what does this mean? And talk to us a little bit about it from both teams' perspectives.
Well, I think from a Myers Park standpoint, they probably could go ahead and clinch, if not tie, for the conference championship if they are able to win this game. Olympic has had a lot of early success this year, and once again, it's a contrast in styles. Olympic is not very big, so they want to make this a full court type game, speed it up, where size doesn't matter as much out in the open floor. And Myers Park, they would love to run their sets and take advantage of their size advantage and shoot over the top of Olympic. So it's contrasting styles. I think Myers Park should be favored, but they're playing at Olympic, and anything can happen in a game where the underdog plays at home. So should be an interesting contest. For Olympic, I think it's more important for playoff seeding that's coming up in a couple of weeks.
And lastly, these last few games right here, I'll throw it Coach Rick here. And you're very high on Amari Connolly up at Freedom. Talk to us a little bit about what this means for him, and then these last three games highlighting our friends in Union and Iredell and Cleveland counties.
Well, you have Alexander Central at Freedom. Early in the year, Amari Connolly, who is a superb athlete, was injured, so they lost a few games early. They lost to Cannon as well. But they're on a roll, and they're going to be one of the favorite teams coming out of the Western 3A for sure. Next up, you have Lake Norman, who clinched, and congratulations to Lake Norman and also head coach Grant Hodges. They've had a remarkable year, so they're going to be on the road at Mooresville. And this could be a trap game for Lake Norman because they've already clinched the regular season Greater Metro 4A regular season championship. And anytime you have a rivalry game between Lake Norman and Mooresville, it's going to be a capacity crowd. So that's going to be a very interesting game as well.
Good. Cam, Chelsea, anything you want to jump in on any of these games before we move on to another group of stars?
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit on that Myers Park Olympic game. I think for the most part, we've all picked Myers Park to win that game, but don't be surprised if Olympic makes it a little bit closer than people think. Cam Taylor, he's a terrific player. I'll be speaking with him actually this week sometime soon to write an article about him. He's had a great year. Look for Olympic to play through him if they want to knock off the Mustangs.
Chelsea, you get the last word.
I need to catch up on my Charlotte basketball. I've been watching all the East games. So, but I will say just seeing, all the Charlotte games y'all have, I think we'll emphasize this again, that the West basketball is definitely better in the state.
Chelsea has spoken. So we go from one star in Miss Chelsea Sipple to the next group of this week's Randall's Rock Stars.
And welcome back. We are live again for another week of Randall's Rock Stars. I'm excited. Randall Clark here. First and foremost, Betsy Burnett this week for South Meck. The senior had 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals versus Barry. And then Tuesday had 5 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists versus Audrey Kale. Next on our list, Taylor Smith from Central Cabarrus. She had 26 points, 5 assists, and 5 steals, and 3 boards to go for her team's W Tuesday night versus East Rowan. Third on our list, Lily Baumgartner from South Caldwell. 17 points, 14 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 blocks, and a big win for her team over Alexander Central Friday night. Nevaeh Farmar back at it again for North Meck. 16 points, 8 steals, and 6 assists. And last but not least, our rock star of the week, Rihanna Menard from West Cabarrus. The freshman dumped in 27 points, had 5 assists, and 5 steals, and she is with us this morning. Rihanna, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Friday night, a big game versus Mooresville. You had 27 points. As a freshman, I feel like sometimes the game can be very, very fast. Do you remember when being out there and you feel like the game just kind of started to slow down for you?
Really when I started putting in the work that I knew I had to step up to be on varsity.
Okay. So Friday night you had 27 with 5 assists, and just tell us kind of how was the rhythm and the flow of the game Friday night versus Mooresville.
We knew it was gonna be a tough game, so we had to go in there with our head up, confident, but we managed to pull through.
That's awesome. All right. So my last question for you: your favorite basketball player to watch on either side, men's or women's? Just a player that you enjoy watching play the game.
Probably Steph Curry, because even when he has good games, he still always wants to correct and do better.
I love it. I just wanted to talk to you for a minute just about being recruited by Alabama and how that process has been so far as a freshman with such a high interest already.
It's good right now. Just got to keep my options open, but it's a good first school right now.
Well, Rihanna, congratulations on a big Friday night, and thank you for joining us this morning. I truly appreciate it. And if you want to be one of Randall's rock stars, make sure to reach out to me on social media at the1RC on both Instagram and Twitter. We'll see you next week.
All right, so here we go again, Randall's Rock Stars, and we go from one week to another, and we're going to set up the next week of Randall's Rock Stars by looking back at this week's Rock Stars. And as you've heard me say for weeks on end, we're going to hear some theme music right here, but it's a misnomer. We're not talking Ladies' Night, we're talking Ladies' Week. Roll it.
Oh, yes, it's Ladies' Night, and the feeling's right. Oh, yes, it's Ladies' Night. Oh, what a night.
All right, here we go. Let's just get this Ladies' Week rolling once again. All right, South Meck at Myers Park. Go for it, Gary.
Well, I saw round 1 of this game, and it was a very good game. Probably the best game I've seen this season on the girls' side. Myers Park led late. South Meck came back and won it at the free throw line. The rematch should be interesting. South Meck is playing with house money. They're undefeated in the conference, so if they win this game, they'll pretty much clinch the title. Myers Park needs this win. I think it's going to be a battle of point guards. Anastasia Sinclair for South Meck and Kamora Canny for Myers Park. Who can impact the game the most? Who can lead their team, get the right people, the ball in the right spots? They both have a good supporting cast. South Meck has about 2 or 3 other players that are averaging double figures, and Maddie Haupt and the post player and the Williams kid. And then Myers Park has Jaron Truesdale, who's been on a tear, who's not only a low post presence, but can hit that top of the key jump shot. So I think this is the game of the week as far as I'm concerned, because they're playing for a conference championship tomorrow night. Should be a big crowd, and I'm interested to see what the outcome is going to be. But I think it's going to be a game of guards.
All right, Randall already talked to us about the Providence Day and Cannon boys. All right, Randall, tee up the girls' game. What we got?
I think the girls' game is not going to disappoint. Cannon won the first matchup rather easily. It's going to come down to the defensive end of the ball, and I just feel like Lily Booker for Cannon is going to create complete havoc on the defensive end. Obviously they're going to be able to score with Ashley Fowler and Samaya Suffering and Lily as well. We had Jordan Latter on the show earlier from PD, but I think Lily Booker is the X factor in this game. I see her getting her hands on a bunch of balls, getting in the passing lanes. This is a kid that has games with 5 or 6 steals, and I feel like this is going to be one of those games where that happens again.
All right, Cam, give us a double play. Let's move outside of Mecklenburg County here, but still in the greater Charlotte metropolitan area. Let's talk Ashe County, Watauga, and over in Gaston County, the Battle of Gastonia, Ashbrook, and Hunter Huss. Talk to us a little bit.
Well, when you look at Watauga versus Ashe County, they currently sit second and third in their conference, respectively, both behind High Brighton. Watauga is led by Kate Sears, who I'd expect another big game from. She had 40 of her team's 61 points in the first meeting against Ashe County. But if Ashe County wants to avenge an earlier loss, it starts with stopping Sears, but obviously that's much easier said than done. And if they want to run down High Brighton, they need to win both their games this week and hope for a loss by High Brighton, because High Brighton did win both their games against Watauga this year. And then moving to Hunter Huss and Ashbrook. Ashbrook's going to be looking for revenge against the Huskies, as their first game ended in a 2-point loss in overtime. This game could be a determining factor if Huss claims their conference title outright or if they have to share it with Ashbrook. The Green Wave shooting guard Madison Cole comes in averaging 21 points per game. For the Huskies, though, it starts with the play of Mila Hoover. She had 20 of the Huskies' 44 in their first game against the Green Wave, and if they hope for the sweep, she'll need another big game.
Ladies' night becomes ladies' week, and each week we all are just happy to be living in Chelsea's world. Let's go to it.
This week, I have Kyla Bryant, who is a senior with Salisbury women's basketball. And Kyla, I want to talk about a few days ago, you guys came off a win against South Davidson. You had a 26-point, 12 steals performance. Talk about that win and just your performance overall.
I knew coming out there I had to get some early steals just to pump the team up, and I was able to get through a lot of passing lanes and create a lot of turnovers, so that got us the early start we've been wanting.
Absolutely. And Kyla, you've been described as the point guard with the it factor. To you, what do you think that it factor is? And just talk about who you are as a player.
I really think it is because I play so under control and poised, and it might be from the fact that I've been in my high school starting point guard for 4 years now, so I've had to carry that, but I don't let a lot of teams or defenders speed me up.
Absolutely. And Salisbury is currently undefeated, 9-0 in the conference. Talk about the season's success so far as a team.
Well, we're really an experienced team. We have 4 seniors and a junior starting for us, so knowing who we are, locking in on the defensive end, and playing together really is how we get it done.
Absolutely. And Kyla, you mentioned that you've been on this team for all 4 years, so you know the program pretty well. Talk about the culture of Salisbury women's basketball and some things that Coach Bryce kind of preaches.
Yeah, well, Salisbury has had some really strong teams and some really talented players come through. So just us knowing who we playing for, and one thing she preaches a lot is playing for each other. And I've played with some of these girls since middle school, some even since the 4th grade. So we really are a family and a sisterhood, and we play for each other and play for the program because we know it means a lot.
Absolutely. And Kyla, this is your senior year. You've had so many accomplishments. Are there any goals that you're most proud of?
Definitely winning the state championship. That's the ultimate goal, is to win a state championship. And not a lot of people can say they won one. So it's really a proud moment for my high school career.
Absolutely. Congratulations on that. And do you have a favorite moment off the court or with your teammates just throughout, your whole 4 years?
Yes, I would have to say our regional championship game last year against Shelby. That game went back and forth, and it was going. The whole game was intense, and we was able to pull it out in a double overtime against a really, really good team. So I think that gave us the energy to go into that state championship game, and it was fun doing it with my team.
Absolutely. That sounds amazing. Well, Kyla, thank you so much for hopping on, and I look forward to see how the rest of the season goes for y'all.
Thank you.
So that was my interview with Kyla Bryant, and now we're going to hop on a coach versus coach between Randall and Gary, and we have 3 big topics to talk about this time. So I'll start with you, Gary, for this first question, but women's basketball plays in 4 quarters instead of 2 halves. Do you think men's basketball should change to that?
Yes, because the major difference is it resets the foul count as to who gets into the bonus. In the men's game, you get the 7 foul, you're in 1-on-1, 10 fouls, you're in the bonus. Whereas in the women's game, the pro game, the high school game, well, not the high school game, but the when the quarter changes, you start the foul count over as far as team fouls are concerned. And so that can be an advantage to a team that has committed a lot of fouls in a particular quarter because it starts over the next quarter. But that's the only major difference that I see between the men and women's game is you start the foul count, the team foul count over with each quarter.
Randall.
The media timeouts are probably the most important and what coaches care about. If you watch, a lot of coaches break down the college game into 4-minute segments. So in the men's game, it's easy right now. So we got 16, we got 12, we got 8, we got 4. You got five rounds that you're trying to win in the first half, and then 5 rounds in the second half. So it would be an adjustment, even though you still have those media timeouts in the women's game. The way that some coaches like to break down the game, especially games that are close and are going to be highly contested, it's very difficult. So I don't have a problem with the women going to 10-minute quarters. I think it's been good for their game. It's actually probably sped their game up a little bit and made it a little bit faster, and I think more people are starting to get used to it and watch it. I'm okay with the men's game staying the way it is. I think that if we were to change it right now, it would be too big of an adjustment for a lot of coaches. Just when you get into the X's and O's of actually being in the game.
And Randall, our next topic is we have state playoffs coming up. Do you think public school state playoffs are better or private school?
Traditionally, probably private school, but for another year, private school is down. So I'm going to go with the public schools right now. I think that, especially for us, especially on the 4A, you got Myers Park on the boys' side. Myers Park, you have Chambers, you have North Meck, and then on the girls' side, you got Lake Norman, you got Charlotte Catholic, you got Independence, you got North Meck, you got Mallet Creek. I mean, just those teams alone on the boys and girls side, I'm definitely going with the public schools right now.
Gary.
Overall, I like the public school method better because you have more teams involved. But what you have with the private schools is because there are not many of them, you have a lot of traditional rivals or rivalry games, even in the state playoffs that take place. Whereas in the public schools, you may play somebody that you're not familiar with. You've hadn't played them maybe once in school history, and so you don't have a feel for them. Whereas in the private schools, because the leagues are so small, you have a feel for everybody in the state because you probably saw them in the regular season, and you probably saw them in the previous year in the playoffs. So I think there's more rivalry involved in the private school playoffs versus the high school playoffs.
And Gary, if North Carolina was organized like Indiana, where there is only one overall state champion, who would it be for the girls' side and the boys' side?
You talking about this year?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Remember, Gary, listen. In the Midwest, we take all the schools and we put them all together. There's no private league. There's no public league. You can play in your own conference, but when it comes tournament time, everybody gets seeded Division 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no matter if it's public or private.
Yeah, kind of. It's that Hoosier stuff, huh?
Yes, sir.
I prefer it broken down into levels because 90% of the time, I would say the bigger schools are probably going to have the bigger players, the bigger roster, or the more talented roster, just because they have more players to choose from. But if we did that this year, I'm going to say Carmel Christian on the men's side, and I may say Cannon on the girls' side.
Interesting.
I like that, Gary. Gary, we don't agree much, and we're not going to agree with this. I would go, and everyone's I'm going Myers Park on the boys' side. I think you get, at NC State versus, a team like Carmel, I think you get a different outcome. So I'm going to go with Myers Park on the boys' side. On the girls' side, I'm going to go Lake Norman. I'm going to take the favorite. The way that they've been playing all season long, those kids just understand it. They get it. They play the right way. I do love that Cannon pick, though. I do.
I saw Lake Norman in last week, and I know we have kids that are more talented or taller, but I don't think we have a better winner in North Carolina than Christian Lewis Williams.
I agree with that. But I'm telling y'all, North Meck had them dead to rights at Lake Norman. I think North Meck is going to have a lot to say. I hope they meet in the regional finals. I hope it's not like they have to meet in round 2. I think those are the 2 best teams in the West. I don't know about the East. Alex can probably talk about the East. But
Rick, one of the things that people
question, Rick, North Carolina 1 state champ. Who is it in boys? Who is it in girls?
In North Carolina?
North Carolina this year.
This year?
Mm-hmm. I think Randall got the 2 right teams. I thought he had the outcome wrong, but go ahead.
Well, I think everybody would say the favorite would be Myers Park and Carmel, but a sneaky team is still Central Cabarrus, in my opinion.
What about Farmville? Somebody said Farmville in the chat. What about
That
Farmville?
was Mr. Bass.
Alex.
Would they have a shot?
Yes, they would have a shot. Farmville Central is in that upper echelon of teams that can play with anyone at any level.
I think Northwood too, guys. I think
Northwood, they would. What you're seeing here, and this is why this conversation is so great, is we've put out 5 or 6 teams here that would have a shot. Whether we're talking Carmel, whether we're talking Myers Park, whether we're talking Central Cabarrus, whether we're talking Farmville Central, whether we're talking
what about Chambers? Chambers seems
whether we're talking Chambers, whether we're talking North Mecklenburg, whether we've got about 8 to 10 teams with a legitimate chance, depending on how.
Okay, Alex, who would win? Alex, pick one. Who would win?
Who would win? All things considered, Carmel is scary. Carmel is scary. And I got to see them in person a couple weeks ago, and what they bring inside, outside, and the depth that they bring is scary.
I just think Carmel's good because of their defense. I think their offense can kind of come and go, but their defense, they're defensively the best defensive team I've seen since the 2013-14. It was a 14-15 Northside Christian. I don't know which year it was. But that Northside team that went to the I guess it was called a Dix at that time. This is the best defensive team I think I've seen since then. Myers Park, Randall, has never won a state basketball championship. I really think they got a good shot to do it this year, and that would be one of
they having girls now. They having girls.
Yeah, not football and basketball. Boys basketball. Barbara's won too. Barbara won in 13-14, I believe it was.
I will say this: Gary's pick.
One of the all-time greatest teams we've seen around here too, by the way.
Gary's pick of Cannon, that Lake Norman Cannon matchup would be the one that I'd have on the girls' side for sure.
Yeah. Chelsea, anybody in the East? We're talking all these West teams. Anybody in the East? Can somebody in the East win it all? Just everything.
I don't think against the Western teams. I think the best team I'd have in the East is probably Farmville Central, but I still think with teams like Myers Park or even, Carmel Christian, I still think it's a Western team that would win.
Cam, what do you think? Duke can't win the high school state championship, but who would win?
Even though they play in a high school gym.
There we go.
I mean, Myers Park is really sound.
Yeah.
I don't know if Chambers could beat them twice, even though they did beat them convincingly. You talk about good defense, though. Central Cabarrus, man, they force like 20-something turnovers a game. It's absurd. But one team, though, I'd have to go Myers Park.
Well, I think the good news is some of these matchups we may actually see come to playoff time if the NCSA does.
Langston, are you including the special schools?
No. I've been trying to get Rick. Off the special schools.
That's funny.
That's a really cool debate. But we're gonna have
and Langston, you made a good point about Chambers. They're playing with that chip on the shoulder, and you think about it, they went to Myers Park and North Meck and beat them on the road. So that speaks volume for Chambers.
I would not want to play Chambers on the road. I mean, they Marcus Brown is a defensive stopper. They can put him on your best guy. And if you can take away Slim even a little bit, Isaiah Evans, you can take away anybody.
Held him to 13.
And I think that and inside, I think that Mario Hansen doesn't get enough credit for being a dominant player. He's kind of stepped in and filled that Daniel Hankins Sanford role really well for them. And they're getting some outside shooting. And they're just able to find the gear and they're just athletic. I mean, like you said, they don't have like the stars. They remind me of those West Charlotte teams used to win state championships. You'd be like, who are those dudes?
Yep.
But they just played well together. And
They did.
I think this Chambers team reminds me.
I think Alex made a good point too. Is Northwood? Northwood's a very talented team with Drake Powell. I mean, it really comes down to matchups. I mean, if you look at it,
I want to see Northwood play Central Cabarrus in the championship game. I would love to see that.
I think that's going to be a given, in my opinion.
I'm going to beg Q Tuck if that happens to put one at 12 o'clock and one at 7 o'clock so we can see both, so we don't have to say they'll make both of them at 7.
I'm just a little concerned. I'm just a little concerned in a matchup like that for however unique a style of play Central Cabarrus has, and we know that you have five quality ball handlers on the court at any time for the Vikings.
Well, the thing about that pressure is that when they throw it, the first pass, they come try to trap it. They can put larger players there. They can sit on top of it, get it to the middle, and start a break. That's the kind of kryptonite to a pressure defense like that. When you can put a bigger player up there, they can see over the top. Now they do have some smaller guards that will be in some trouble, but they have some taller players in Northwood that they could definitely catch it. And then they got Drake Powell, who is a point guard for all intents and purposes.
I think Millbrook could shock a few people.
Chelsea?
I think they could shock a few people. I wouldn't put them at state championship against these teams, but I still think Millbrook's having a good season.
They got a stud in Colt Langdon.
What you got to realize there is, and as everyone has said, it's all about matchups. The way that the East is set up this year at the 4A level alone, coming out of the East, who's in Millbrook's way?
Well, Millbrook, and I said it before, you got to look at Holly Springs. Holly Springs is playing very, very well. Micah Jones is their point guard, and he's a paint touch point guard. He really controls the tempo. And, when they did lose their games, he was out with an ankle injury. So with him back in the lineup, they've been really good. The one thing I do wish they would do at the public school level is, instead of doing the East versus West, is basically just seed them based on
everybody together. Rick, I beg for that in football. Chelsea, we talked about it in football. I beg, at least in the 4A level. I know in the 1A it gets kind of difficult because it's so far away. But in the 4A, with most of the schools kind of in that.
Because I think, like, if you look at the 4A level, without a doubt, the top three teams in the state of North Carolina 4A is going to be Myers Park, Chambers, and North Meck.
All right, Rick, I want to ask you before we go to Randall, I want to ask you this question we had in the coach versus coach. Better state playoff. You see more basketball than all of us. Better state playoff, public schools or private schools?
I think the public school, because of the fan base and the excitement. I think that would probably weigh heavy on me as far as that's concerned. Private schools, like you said before, you got a lot of those teams that are rivals that will be playing each other. Basically, you got some of the teams like a Cannon or a Carmel that will play each other during the course of the year, or you have a lot of the teams in the same conference that may be playing in the state championship as well. So you have a lot of those teams that will be playing each other 2, 3, and maybe possibly 4 times. Whereas the public school, you probably won't have that. You'll probably have more intriguing matchups between different schools.
The one thing I will say we're lucky in this state is that both of the state championship days for public school and private school are just outstanding. I mean, just next level outstanding. And I enjoy going. I go every year. Sometimes I've gone, we didn't have a team in there. We've been fortunate most of the years I've been here. The Charlotte team has been to the championship game. But
it's getting to crunch time with the season ending basically this week, and conference tournament will start. So the playoffs right around the corner. Great time of year for basketball in North Carolina.
Absolutely. And that's a great segue to put the big star in his one shot. And Randall, give us your final thoughts.
It is that time of year. Obviously, we talk about offense a lot. We talk about scoring the basketball. But remember, defense travels. We talked about Chambers today and how well of a job they did on the defensive end of the floor. Offense might win games and sell tickets, but defense wins championships. Go guard somebody. Dig in and get stops. Defense does travel.
All right. That is not a picture of Randall. I promise you. That is a
He's a ventriloquist.
That's a live shot. That's a live shot.
What it is right there is the only thing.
I was trying to channel my inner Alex Bass.
You got to move there from side to side. Get on B. Let's go. Let's go. Move it side to side.
Get off Wi-Fi is probably a better thing. All right, y'all. It's been a great show. And Grice, even though I had extra stuff today that I wasn't planning for, a football coach with a 20.
It was Coach James. Coach James is the reason why we went an hour 30 today.
No, but we're still on time. Hour 30 is like the most we're supposed to be. I get Grice on here. It's like 10:20. I'm like, Grice, it's time to go. Chelsea's like, I gotta wake up at 6 in the morning.
Hey, Grice is gonna find you like Coach Nelson's gonna find you. You keep talking every week you come in here throwing Grice under the bus. Just know he's gonna come find you.
Grice gonna quit on me.
Yeah, he is. Then you gonna have to put me on football. Then
the football team in the State's gonna walk out. Grice is ESPN good. I'm telling y'all, he's like the best. He's the best. All right, that's Randall Clark. That's Rick Lewis, the guru, number one voice of high school basketball. That's Chelsea, the future Tar Heel. Cameron, the Dookie. Alex, the contrarian. Gary, the coach of all seasons. I'm Langston, and we are Talking Press.